Welcome to the Animal Training Fundamentals Podcast, where we have fun with practical application and we go deep into the science of behavior. Put them both together and you get results, solutions for challenges, and the tools you need to achieve your training goals. I'm your host, Barbara Heidenreich. Let's talk training. Welcome back. Here we are for part 2 of Freeing Crabs from the Bucket, the power of proper attribution. This is the podcast version of this. I actually did a whole very in-depth course on this, as well as a 21-page, I think it's maybe more than that, actually more than 20 pages PDF that I wrote to go with this course. And you can get that PDF, you can take that course at atfgoats.com. And I highly encourage you to do that because I'm not going to lie, this particular portion of the whole course that I'm going to be talking about in this episode, this one was pretty personal, pretty sensitive for me, pretty difficult to talk about. But I did want to share it because I think it's something that many of us have experienced, many of us can relate to, but it's important to talk about. We need to have these conversations so that we can hopefully make some changes in our industry, hopefully changes for the better. So I share some personal stories for you here. But again, I encourage you to go to atfgoats.com, take the course, and get a little bit more insights into this. Give me some feedback on it if it's something that you can relate to. All right, let's go ahead and dive into this part 2. So now let's talk about some reasons to avoid plagiarism. So there are as many reasons to avoid plagiarism as there are to support proper attribution. The aversives can be quite compelling if the desired outcomes are not enticing enough. The Chicago School of Professional Psychology writing resource on plagiarism and academic integrity states the following. So this one is a direct quote. In the Western academic world, plagiarism is considered an academic crime because it violates the behavior, they have in parentheses linear active, information usage, in parentheses data-oriented, and trust, in parentheses high trust society of the culture. Plagiarism is indirect and citing evidence-based sources, fails to reference the data used, and does not credit the institution or person who created the source, thereby violating cultural standards. So that's a pretty heavy statement, and it's worth reading again if you download the PDF just to kind of help digest that. However, these cultural violations and their impact extend beyond academia, and hopefully we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit as we go into some examples. An extremely likely outcome is that the offending content creator will get caught plagiarizing. Of course, I'm kind of speaking in third person here, but the author, me, has been in the audience several times and seen her uncredited photos appear in colleagues' presentations used without permission. Colleagues have also copied the author's original behavior ideas and misrepresented them as their own at professional conferences, workshops, and on social media without referencing the content from which they learned the idea. A novice trainer was unaware she was explaining the author's original shaping plans to her during a training demonstration, not realizing they were the author's contributions to the industry. The author had an iconic magazine cover photo of hers used without permission to represent a parrot available for adoption. She had the transcript from her DVD copied verbatim and used without permission or credit as content for a competitor's blog. And this list goes on. People know a creator's material and will report to the original author when content has been plagiarized if the author themselves does not discover it. And such acts of plagiarism are not harmless. They can misrepresent the original author's content. The competency of the person plagiarizing may not match that of the original content provider. The person plagiarizing does not necessarily have all the information the original content provider does, and may not be in contact with the original author to get clarification if needed. Permission to use images of people and animals in videos or photos may not be extended beyond that of the original content provider. And this is important because it protects how that content is used and how those images are portrayed. Finally, when a person plagiarizes such material, they misrepresent their work and their intellectual property. And this is unfair to the consumer who may be looking at that content. And again, I'm going to be speaking a little bit in third person here since I'm reading the document. But the author frequently speaks at conferences. She also shares photos and educational posts about animal training on social media. While attending a veterinary conference, she was surprised to see her picture of a rabbit entering a crate appeared in someone else's presentation. This was a photo from a session conducted while consulting with one of her regular zoo clients. The author did not know the presenter. She did not grant permission for the photo to be used, nor did her name appear on the slide. She could only conclude that the image had been taken from her social media without permission. Now, one may think this is insignificant as it's all about sharing good information, but here are some reasons why this practice of plagiarism is unacceptable or problematic. The author did not know what information this veterinarian was sharing. She also did not know the context in which her photo was used. The image represented the author's work with her clients, and that could have jeopardized her relationship with her clients. So that's a big one. The author's clients have trusted her and how she will use their images and the images of their animals. If the author recognized the photo, certainly others could recognize the photo, and this photo was already in circulation and associated with the author's work. So this is why it's vital for content creators to retain control of their videos and their images. So the author will rarely share videos and photos when others ask if they can use such content. So while this may seem like a minor infraction and maybe just not very nice that the presenter did not credit the author, the ramifications can really go much further. So when intellectual property is used without permission, it can be a very serious issue. So in general, it's best practice to never lift images from the internet. Use original photos or photos with permission, or utilize a service that provides royalty-free or licensed images. We're going to take a little break to give you your first secret word, and the secret word is ethics. Secret words are important to remember and to submit to show you've listened to this podcast for your professional development. All right, back to the program. So this leads to a question of ethics and plagiarism. It's very disheartening when people work hard to develop new ideas and share them to improve animal welfare, and they don't get attribution, but instead see someone else getting the credit for their ideas. And again, a little third person language here since I'm reading a document, but the author has experienced this several times with shaping plans she has shared freely, including one for training parrots to inhale medications, training a parrot how to paint, training parrots to accept medications from a dosing syringe, and several behaviors for rabbits and guinea pigs. This was especially problematic when the author trained her dog to open his mouth by gently biting on 2 PVC pipes she attached to a freestanding parrot perch. The author shared this on social media, her email list, and in a freely available online course. It was reported to the author that 2 colleagues who are also consultants copied the behavior and shared their iterations in conference presentations without crediting the author for the idea. According to the author's digital tracking services, both colleagues are members of the author's mailing lists, members of her social media group, and one had attended the free online course that featured the original behavior. And the author faced the uncomfortable task of correcting others in online community discussion groups on the origins of the behavior idea if she were to get proper attribution. More importantly, the open mouth behavior shaping plan has now been seen by a researcher who would like to use the shaping plan for a critical scientific study of a significant species of concern. So tracing the origins of that shaping plan back to the creator is essential for the project. When proper attributions are in place, it makes it possible for the significant contributions of the animal training industry to progress without unnecessary barriers to critical information. And when plagiarism occurs, it can punish the behavior of those who share content and prevent the sharing of information, such as that open mouth behavior shaping plan. As a trainer who has now had several shaping plans copied without attribution and has seen them credited to others, the author will unlikely continue to share original ideas on social media without adding assurances that her intellectual property remains protected. Unfortunately, even when sharing on her private online learning platform, it still has occurred. And a colleague from another zoo who contributed an original behavior idea to a course was not properly credited for their work. This has now led to recommended citations being added to the end of every YouTube video and an online course posted on the author's online learning platform with a statement encouraging proper citation of the content learners have just consumed. The goal is to make it as easy as possible for people to practice citing resources and to model providing attribution. So this impact of a lack of attributions can be significant. A brilliant animal trainer and PhD in behavior analysis who also felt the burn of plagiarism all too frequently has removed herself from the industry entirely. Her information sharing has been punished so that the industry and animals lost her excellent contributions altogether. So imagine the benefits to the animal training community if attributions were commonplace. Furthermore, tracing the origins of a behavior would be easy due to attributions being a normal part of the profession. Having this skill set in a trainer's repertoire would be expected, and it would be considered unprofessional to exclude providing proper credits. Based on the overwhelming positive response to a podcast on the history of giraffe training with Amy Phelps, the author believes that many animal trainers would appreciate more information about the history of animal training. Some might want to know who first developed many behavior ideas, shaping plans, and procedures, and introduced behaviorism to modern zoos. Early in the author's career, she remembers two pioneers of behavior science and animal training attending an animal training conference. However, at the time, she had no idea who they were. Their names, Marion Breland Bailey and Bob Bailey, were no longer mentioned in popular written outlets or dialogue in the industry. When the author actively pursued enhancing her academic knowledge of behavior science, in which proper attributions are required, she learned much more about such pioneers than she did from the practical application field of animal training. Sadly, Marion passed not long after that event, and the author missed a rare opportunity to spend valuable time with a significant pioneer in the animal training field. At that time, only some animal trainers were aware of behavior science pioneers who contributed to the field of animal training, minus a handful of names. Had there been a better citation trail in the animal training community, would the author have had a better awareness of influential pioneers? It's possible, but of course, this is speculation. There are some resources with historical information about scientific practitioners, and I've got some references for you there so you can find those articles. However, there are gaps to be filled and can be filled moving forward with proper attribution. Another critical development has been a change in the focus on the work of animal trainers. Animal training has evolved from being viewed as a hobby or entertainment to essential for animal welfare. Along with this are more evidence-based studies that demonstrate its value. There's still work to be done to change the perception regarding the work of animal trainers. Disregarding proper attribution reduces the industry to something less than, where it's becoming more genuinely evidence-based, coming from scientific practitioners, and it deserves such respect. However, that respect might be more difficult to gain if members of our own industry are challenged with behaving with respect towards one another's work and legacy. Often the names that receive the most attention are the ones with the most strategic marketing. This is not necessarily synonymous with a subject matter expert. It also does not require the person to provide proper attributions to gain a following. A following also does not necessarily indicate valid information. However, one can have a large following, practice appropriate attribution, and provide accurate information. They can model the behaviors beneficial to moving the industry towards providing attribution appropriately. Unfortunately, social media requests for materials such as photos and videos to use in educational presentations are also often observed. Also seen as the use of photos of the individual with an animal they didn't actually train or rarely train, but were allowed a photo opportunity. They may also share material that is primarily descriptions of the work of others to provide content. These and other misrepresentations of credentials, work, and experience can mislead audiences about the content provider's experience, their knowledge, and their skills. Although attributions may be provided, this is also not lifting the community, but using deception to raise one's own profile by using resources from others to represent expertise they may not have. So, in summary, plagiarism reflects poorly on the person who plagiarizes. It's unprofessional. It hurts the content provider, the person whose work is stolen, the consumer, and the industry. Now let's get into the challenges that may hinder our progress when it comes to proper attribution. Numerous challenges have hindered progress in providing proper attribution in the animal training industry. Few animal trainers practice proper attribution in all aspects of content production. Therefore, the behavior needs to be modeled consistently, leading to a culture actively promoting and encouraging giving credit. Furthermore, some high-profile voices have stated that implementing it is too challenging. Many may need to learn how to properly provide attribution to various types of content, which can make it more likely that proper credit will be applied. This lack of knowledge about plagiarism and attribution often leads to an uncomfortable apology and an excuse that the content provider just didn't know after an instance of plagiarism is detected. Furthermore, the animal training community generally has not held people accountable for improper attribution. As the industry continues to work more to establish itself as an evidence-based field, proper attribution will become more imperative. However, it is reasonable to assume that the animal training industry can overcome these challenges with the appropriate guidance. Understanding how ideas are generated is also critical to helping recognize the importance of proper attribution. Epstein notes that new ideas are not randomly or spontaneously generated, but they develop partly from exposure to diverse stimuli. In the world of animal training, those stimuli often come from the sharing of information and examples from others. Recognizing and appreciating that someone else's work may have contributed to one's ideas becomes more acceptable when the underlying scientific principles impacting generativity are understood. This can allow the content creator to remember to acknowledge the YouTube video, the course, the social media, the training demonstration, the lecture, or the conversation that inspired their iteration of a shaping plan, a behavior, or a procedure. Time for your second secret word, and the secret word is history. All right, let's get back to the program. Animal training is primarily an applied field. For this reason, many may not have experience disseminating information in a scholarly format in which opportunities to practice giving attribution apply. Most of those who enter the industry are not required to produce written material for publication. However, some may occasionally prepare presentations and materials for conference proceedings requiring references. Therefore, the behavior of applying attribution, especially to many different types of content, is not omitted frequently and may require practice to gain fluency. However, information sharing does occur that requires attribution. A more common occurrence in the animal training field is posting on social media, which can include some limited inherent attribution built within the platforms. Fortunately, educational resources are available that can guide animal trainers to facilitate their attribution practices. And it may seem relevant to blame the internet for the slow development of proper attribution practices in the animal training community. As mentioned, items are often shared on social media with limited attribution. Frequently, such content is treated as open access and public domain. Open access or open source is used to describe online digital content, usually scholarly literature that can be accessed free of charge. It often carries less restrictive copyright and licensing barriers than traditionally published works. Public domain means the exclusive rights have expired, meaning or been waived or are not applicable. However, this practice of sharing animal training ideas and information without proper attribution occurred before the internet existed. So social media has just made this sharing more accessible. Information on how to properly credit has been available to the animal training community well before the internet, but has yet to be readily utilized. Like I said, that section was difficult for me. It's very difficult to talk about, but I don't know. I just feel like it's important for everyone to have those conversations. So there we go. We've had that conversation. Now we're moving on. Next week, it's part 3, the third and final installment. We're going to be talking about how do we do it? How do we give proper attribution? So some nuts and bolts here. And of course, if you can't wait, if you are ready for that information right now, go to atfgoats.com. You can take the full course for free. You can get the download for free right now and get all that great information right now so that we can make some great changes in our community. All right. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode. If you liked what you heard today, visit animaltrainingfundamentals.com for more quality content on animal training. You'll find courses, community, and extensive video examples from my consulting work around the world. We'd love to have you join our force-free family.